What we want is a nice, juicy murder. Well, Hawkins, what do you want?
I heard the sound of your typewriter, sir. I take it you've had an inspiration at last.
Getting 2 lines typed between 8 o'clock and midnight is an inspiration. Perhaps I have, Hawkins. Here, what do you think?
Oh, dear me, sir. I'm in her house here in the hills, all set about by daffodils. I beg pardon, sir. Is it a verse, sir?
Of course it's a verse. I sit down to write a murder, and what comes out? Poetry.
Oh, I shouldn't go so far as to call it that, sir. But I see your point. Perhaps it's the effect of Miss Hudson, sir.
All right, supposing it is. But what about this house? Isn't it going to have any effect on me? I'm a mystery story writer, Hawkins. My public expects gore.
I think it doesn't do to be impatient, sir. After all, we only did just move in, and it is our first night.
Well, what if it is? Is Janet's grandpa shy or something?
Did you say Janet's grandpa, sir?
Yes, I said Janet, and she calls me Chris. We got quite friendly this afternoon.
I see, sir. Well, perhaps her grandfather is waiting till we go to bed, sir. I must confess the thought of going up those great dark stairs gives me a bit of a shiver, sir.
Oh, nonsense, Hawkins.
If you say so, sir, but it is a great barn of a place for just the 2 of us. I say, sir, did you hear that, sir? I've a feeling it meant something.
Oh, it does mean something, Hawkins. Yes, it definitely does mean something. It means the wind is blowing through the chimney.
It sounds almost human, sir.
Well, maybe Grandpa's getting a tooth pulled or something. But I suppose you're alarmed at that noise, too.
Well, sir, it wouldn't be bones rattling now, would it, sir?
No, it wouldn't, Hawkins. You see, all old houses like this have shutters, and when the wind blows, they bang. You can prove it by every good ghost story ever written.
Oh, perhaps you're right about the shutters, sir. But that was unmistakably a knock on the door.
Of course it was. Why don't you see who it is?
Very good, sir. But it does seem an untoward hour.
If it's a ghost, Hawkins, show him in.
It seems we're still within reach of the post, sir. A special delivery letter from the city.
I see. And here I hoped it would be something unusual. Who's it from?
Look, sir. I say, sir, this is extraordinary, sir.
Well, don't just stand there, Hawkins. What's extraordinary?
It's a hand-printed note, sir. And look at this. Signed, Charles Massey. The murderer in The Perfect Crime by Christopher Thorne.
Well, very interesting. Letters from my own brainchildren. Let's see what he says. Dear Mr. Thorne, you brought me to life in The Perfect Crime. And then instead of letting me be caught and hanged, you left me alone in the world with my conscience. A fate worse than death. Now is my chance for revenge. Tomorrow evening, beware. You will die. The condemned man ate a hearty meal. Well, Hawkins, if I'm going to depart this world tonight, I'm glad I'll be taking one of your excellent dinners with me.
Thank you, sir.
Chris, I wish you wouldn't joke about that letter. It frightens me.
My dear Janet, it needn't. You're not frightened, are you, Hawkins?
Well, sir, I must admit to feeling a trifle uncomfortable.
Oh, nonsense. Can't you see it's just some character who's read my stories? Why, it all comes under the heading of fan mail. He's a crank, that's all.
That's the part that worries me. His letter's so peculiar. He sounds insane.
Oh, no doubt he is.
Well, they're the most dangerous kind. If he's got this idea that he's some sort of a character out of your book and it becomes a phobia with him, what was this character like?
Charles Massey? Oh, one of the most diabolical murderers I ever...
Sort of a character out of your book and it becomes a phobia with him. What was this...
Murderers?
Oh.
I beg your pardon, sir. But what joke is...
Some sort. Yes, he liked to threaten his victims with knives, too, and half scare them to death before finally finishing them off. Oh, darling. Now you must hear any more of the fellow.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Christopher Thorne, but you're going to hear a great deal more of me.
It's Massey, sir.
Yes, and he certainly looks the part. I suppose you're the fellow who sent me the charming little note yesterday.
I'm glad you thought it charming, Christopher Thorne.
Well, I'm glad, too, as far as that goes. But do we have to be so formal? Just call me Chris. How did you get in here, anyway?
That is not important. You taught Charles Massey to enter houses without being seen or heard. It's child's play. Just as it will be child's play for me to kill you.
Chris, he's got a knife!
Good heavens, sir!
Ah, but he isn't going to use it.
Perhaps not. There are other ways of killing a man than by using a knife. Aren't there, Christopher Thorne? And you taught me all the ways. They were all conceived in your brain and then transferred to mine. You often like me to choke my victims. Would you like to die that way, Mr. Thorne?
Frankly, I hadn't given the matter much thought.
Please, Chris, can't you see?
Now, Janet, let me handle this. So you're Charles Massey.
I wasn't always. Your books. I've read them. I've studied them. And the perfect crime of Charles Massey. That's the one. That's the one I read over and over. I thought about Massey in my room at night, until at last I felt his blood flowing in my veins, his brain ticking in my head, until I am Charles Massey.
He's mad!
Yes, I think you're right, Janet. He's beginning to pall on me. Hawkins, don't you think you'd better show the gentleman out?
Me, sir?
Yes, you, Hawkins.
Very good, sir. Right this way. Mr. Massey, I said right to Charles.
Oh, he's got Hawkins by the throat!
Stay where you are, Mr. Thorne, or I will use this knife. This is just a little one-handed sample of what you may expect when your turn comes. Don't try to get out of the house. I'll be watching.
Where's he going now?
Well, the obvious answer is crazy. Did he hurt you, Hawkins?
Well, not greatly, sir. But he does have a nasty grip.
We've got to do something quickly. We've got to...
Oh, she's going to faint, sir.
I've got her.
No, I'll be all right.
Hawkins, there's no use frightening Miss Hudson to death. Now, I think this has gone far enough.
What do you mean, sir?
Don't you suppose I know that this is all a put-up job?
Chris!
But, sir...
Now, don't put on that poker face. I don't have an extension on my phone at home for nothing.
I see, sir. Then you overheard my conversation with Mr. Marshall?
Who's Mr. Marshall?
My publisher. He phoned Hawkins before we left town and said that he was going to send out a man to really scare a plot into me.
But I had no idea he was going to think of a plan like this, sir.
Yes, it was rather ingenious. I should have Marshall write my stories for me. Really, Hawkins, I had difficulty keeping a straight face when that fellow had you by the neck.
He was quite convincing, wasn't he, sir?
Well, the game's up now, Hawkins. You can't keep any secrets from me. Better tell the fellow to go away. Miss Hudson doesn't like him.
Oh, I'm not frightened any longer. Look, that window, it's opening.
Oh, he's up to something else now. All right, come on in, Massey.
But, Chris, it isn't Massey.
Hello.
My, another caller. And who are you?
I've come to haunt the house.
To what? And who, if I may ask, sent you?
Mr. Marshall. He'd give me $50 if I just break in the place and be scary like.